I heard her whisper his name in her sleep. That was the moment everything cracked. I remember it so clearly, the hum of the ceiling fan above us, the soft rustle of the sheets as she shifted beside me, her breath catching just slightly before she said it. Not my name. Not a mumble. A name, full, clear, like a plea. Jason. And I knew. I just knew. She never called me Jason. My name is Mark. She was curled toward me, her arm resting lightly across my chest like nothing was wrong, like she belonged to me, and maybe, in some technical, legal, exhausted way, she still did. But in her mind. In her heart. In that half-sleep state where the truth slips past our carefully guarded walls. She was with someone else. And not just someone. Jason was her ex. The one before me. The one who left her shattered, crying on her apartment floor, the one she swore she'd never speak to again. The one I helped her forget, or at least, I thought I did. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I laid there in the dark, my heart pounding in my ears like a warning drum, playing back every conversation, every late-night text she said was just her sister, every time she turned away when I reached for her. Every small detail I had brushed off in the name of love, loyalty, and, let's be honest, fear. Fear of losing her. Fear of being alone again. The next morning, she was all smiles and coffee. "Morning, babe," she said, kissing my forehead like a wife in a rom-com. She was wearing the blue robe I bought her last Christmas, the one with the tiny white stars that she said made her feel like a constellation. I watched her move around the kitchen like nothing happened. Like she hadn't just given away a piece of herself to someone else in her dreams. I didn't say anything at first. I wasn't even sure I could trust what I heard. But deep down, a voice, that sickening, guttural voice we all try to ignore, whispered, "You already know." I tried to act normal. Tried to drink my coffee without staring at her too hard. Tried not to imagine her whispering his name while she was awake. Tried not to wonder if they'd been talking again. But the truth doesn't let you rest. It sits on your chest like a weight, pressing harder every time you pretend it's not there. A few days later, the cracks became impossible to ignore. She left her phone on the counter while she was in the shower. I never checked her phone. Never felt the need. But now. Now the trust was already bleeding out. Now the silence felt like a betrayal. I told myself I wouldn't open it. I told myself I was better than that. But my hand moved on its own. There was a message. Just one. On the lock screen. From Jay. "I miss you too." That was it. Nothing more. Nothing that would hold up in court. But everything I needed to know. I didn't confront her right away. I couldn't. My mind was racing, my heart was a mess of confusion and anger and something worse, heartbreak. Because here's the thing, I loved her. I still loved her. I wasn't perfect. God knows I've made my mistakes, working too late, forgetting our anniversary that one year, zoning out during arguments because I thought silence would fix things. But I never cheated. I never strayed. I never gave my heart to someone else while pretending to be present. So that night, I cooked dinner. I poured wine. I waited. She sat across from me, her smile soft, her eyes tired. She was talking about something from work, I don't even remember what. I just watched her lips move, wondering if they'd recently said his name in a more deliberate way. Finally, I asked her. "Do you ever think about him?" She looked up, confused. "Who?" "Jason." She blinked. Just for a second. But it was all I needed. "Why would you ask that?" she said, too quickly. Too defensively. "I heard you say his name in your sleep." Her face paled. "What?" I leaned forward. "You said his name, Sarah. Clear as day. And then I saw a message from someone named Jay on your phone. He misses you. So I'll ask again, are you thinking about him?" She stared at me. The silence between us was thunderous. Then, quietly, she said, "It's not what you think." Which is, of course, what everyone says when it's exactly what you think. I was confused, she continued. "We started talking again a few weeks ago. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. I just I didn't have closure. I swallowed hard. Closure. After all these years. Her voice broke then. He reached out. Said he made a mistake. Said he's changed. And I didn't want to feel anything, Mark, I swear. But I did. The wine tasted like ash in my mouth. Are you in love with him? I asked, the words cutting me as they left. She didn't answer. And that was my answer. I stood up, heart pounding. So what now? I asked. You going back to him? Leaving me for your ex because he sent a few sorry texts? She looked at me, and for a second, I saw something that made my stomach turn, hesitation. Not guilt. Not love. Not remorse. Calculation. No, she said finally. I'm not leaving. That should have felt like relief. It didn't. Why not? I asked, even though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. She looked down. And then she said something that made the floor beneath me disappear. Because I'd be stupid to walk away from this life. My breath caught. This life. She nodded slowly. The house. The stability. The money. Jason can't give me any of that. You can. I've built something here, Mark. I'm not throwing it away. I took a step back. I felt like I'd been slapped. Not because she said it, but because she meant it. You're staying, for the money? I said, almost laughing. You're choosing me over him because of what I can give you. Her voice was calm now. Cold. Businesslike. I'm being honest, she said. Isn't that what you wanted? And for the first time since I met her, I didn't recognize the woman in front of me. She said she was staying for the lifestyle. Not for me. Not for love. Not for the years we'd spent building something together. But for the house, the stability, the money. Like I was an investment. A retirement plan with a pulse. I didn't say anything right away. I just stood there, listening to my heartbeat echo in my ears, wondering if I was still asleep, if maybe I'd wake up and she'd roll over and call me babe again, ask if I wanted pancakes. But I didn't wake up. This was real. Every ugly second of it. I'm being honest, she said again, folding her arms like she deserved a medal for it. I'm not sure that makes it better, I said quietly. I didn't lie, she added, looking almost annoyed now. I didn't sleep with him. I haven't even seen him in person. I remembered how it used to feel. That's all. How it used to feel. I snapped. Sarah, that man left you crying on your floor. You said he broke you. You told me you'd never talk to him again. She looked away. People change. And I didn't. My voice cracked. I stayed. I worked. I made this life with you. She sighed, tired of the conversation already. And I'm still here, aren't I? That was the moment something inside me, something soft, something forgiving, began to harden. She wasn't sorry. Not really. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing comfort. I walked outside. Didn't say another word. The air was cold, sharp. I needed it. I needed anything to clear the fog that had wrapped itself around my head. I sat on the porch swing we bought together when we moved in. She said she wanted it so we could watch sunsets and grow old. That was 3 years ago. Back when promises meant something. Back when I thought we were a team. Now I realized, I'd been carrying us both. And she'd been watching from the sidelines, calculating every move like a game of chess. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. She didn't apologize again. She didn't bring it up. She just acted normal. Like she hadn't dropped a bomb and walked away. She still kissed me goodnight. Still wore the robe. Still asked me what I wanted for dinner. But every smile felt rehearsed. Every laugh slightly delayed, like she was remembering how to fake it. And me? I played along. Because I wasn't ready to blow it all up yet. Not before I understood what I was even standing on. That weekend, I asked her if she wanted to go to dinner, the Italian place we used to love before everything got mechanical. She hesitated, then nodded. Sure. That sounds nice. We sat at our usual booth. Ordered the same pasta. Drank wine. Talked about nothing, the way people do when they're pretending things are fine. But halfway through, I looked at her and said, "Tell me the truth. Are you in love with him?" She didn't answer right away. She cut her pasta. Took a bite. Chewed like I hadn't spoken. Then she looked up and said, "I don't know." And that hit harder than any yes or no ever could. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling like a stranger in my own bed. At 2:13 a.m., I got up. Walked into the office. Sat at my desk. I opened the folder I hadn't touched in years, our prenup. She never wanted to sign it at first. Said it felt unromantic. But I insisted. Not because I didn't trust her, I did, but because I'd worked too hard to build what I had, and I knew love didn't always protect you. And now I was damn glad I had it. I flipped through the pages slowly, reading the words I never thought I'd need. The clauses about infidelity. About abandonment. About what happens when someone chooses another person emotionally, even if the physical line hasn't been crossed yet. She didn't know I'd updated it last year. Quietly. After a friend of mine got taken to the cleaners in his divorce and ended up sleeping in his office for 6 months. I added a clause. One she never asked about. One that said if emotional betrayal could be reasonably proven, and if financial motivation was a factor in staying, I retained 95% of assets. At the time, it felt paranoid. Now it felt prophetic. Over the next week, I started paying attention differently. I noticed how she never hugged me unless I hugged her first. I noticed how she flinched when I mentioned future plans, vacations, renovations, even kids. I noticed her checking her phone just a little too often, smiling just a little too subtly. So I called a friend. A tech guy. Someone who owed me a favor. "Can you recover deleted messages?" I asked him. He paused. "Whose?" "My wife's." He didn't ask why. Just said, "Give me an hour." What he sent me made my blood run cold. There were texts. Hundreds. Deleted daily. Carefully. Meticulously. But they were there, pulled from backups she didn't even know existed. Some were flirty. Some were nostalgic. Some were brutally honest. And one of them, one burned itself into my brain. "I still love you. I think I always have. But Mark gives me everything I never got from you. I just wish I didn't need to choose." Another one. "He suspects something. But I'm staying. For now. I can't throw away this life just for a second chance that might not work. Second chance. Like I was a placeholder. A temporary fix. A wallet with a wedding ring." That night, I sat on the edge of the bed while she brushed her teeth in the bathroom. When she came out, I was holding the printed messages in my hand. She froze. "What's that?" I didn't say anything. Just handed her the papers. She took them. Her eyes scanned the lines. And then. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She didn't even try to explain. She sat down beside me, placed the pages on the nightstand, and whispered, "I never wanted to hurt you." I turned to her, searching her face. "Then why did you?" She looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something raw. Real. Ugly. Because I was afraid. Of what? Of ending up with nothing. Of choosing wrong. Of regretting everything. I laughed, bitter and hollow. "So you chose to lie instead?" She didn't answer. I didn't kick her out that night. I didn't scream. I didn't smash anything. I just stared at the woman I thought I knew and realized she was already gone. She was sitting beside me, but the version of her I fell in love with had left months ago, maybe years. I just hadn't noticed. And now? Now I had a decision to make. Do I keep pretending, like she wanted? Play house with someone who calculated my worth in dollar signs? Let her stay in my life because she was afraid of the unknown? Or do I show her what I'm really made of? I thought handing her those printed texts would be the end. I thought that seeing the truth, in black and white, staring her in the face, would push her out the door. But she didn't leave. She stayed. She stayed like nothing had changed. Like the foundation of our marriage hadn't cracked straight through the middle. The next morning, she made coffee. The smell drifted into the bedroom like some cruel reminder of normal life. "Do you want breakfast?" she called out. I didn't answer. I just sat in the bed, staring at the space where she used to sleep, now cold, empty, and yet still somehow hers. When I finally came downstairs, she was sitting at the kitchen island, flipping through her phone like she hadn't just destroyed the most important thing in my life. "You're quiet," she said, not looking up. "I'm disgusted," I replied, flat. She blinked. Set her phone down. "Mark. No. Stop using my name like you know me." That got her attention. She turned fully toward me. "You think I'm the only one who made mistakes here?" I laughed, sharp and loud. "What mistake did I make?" "Loving you. Trusting you. Believing that when you said forever, you meant more than until someone better texted you." "You stopped seeing me," she said softly, suddenly sounding hurt. I looked at her like she'd just spoken another language. "What? You stopped looking at me like I mattered. You stopped touching me the way you used to. You were always working, always planning for the future. But you forgot me, wasn't it?" I stood there, stunned. "That's your excuse?" I said slowly. "That I was working too hard? That I didn't give you enough attention?" She stood too now. "I'm not excusing anything. I'm trying to make you understand how we got here." I shook my head. "We got here because you chose him. Over and over. Even when I was right here. You were texting another man while I sat next to you on the couch. I never slept with him. You don't have to take your clothes off to cheat on someone," I snapped. "You just have to stop choosing them." She turned away from me then, wiping at her eyes. I didn't comfort her. For the first time in years, I didn't feel protective of her pain. Because I was drowning in mine. I wish I could say I packed her bags that night. I wish I could say I told her to get out, to go find out if her ex was really the fantasy she remembered. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because as much as I hated her in that moment, a part of me still loved her. Or maybe I just loved who she used to be. Or maybe, and this hurt the most, maybe I didn't want to be alone. The next few days were strange. Like we were actors playing a role. We spoke only when necessary. "Did you feed the dog? Do we need groceries? The plumber's coming at 3. But at night, we slept on opposite sides of the bed, both wide awake, listening to the silence we used to fill with laughter. And then, 5 days later, I saw it. She was standing in the hallway with her phone, smiling. Not a big smile. Just one of those soft, secret ones people make when they think no one's watching. I knew that smile. I used to be the reason for it. Now it was his. I walked straight past her and into my office. Locked the door. And pulled out the papers. I'd been holding off. I told myself I was giving her time to show me something real. Remorse. Honesty. Anything. But all she gave me was silence and denial. So I made the call to my lawyer. "Is the clause valid?" I asked. "It's ironclad," he said. "And from the looks of those texts, you've got more than enough to enforce it." I nodded. "Then let's move forward." I didn't feel relieved. Or empowered. I just felt empty. Like I was about to cut off a part of myself just to stop the infection from spreading. That night, I handed her the envelope at dinner. She didn't even open it. Just stared at it like it was ticking. "What's this?" "You know what it is." She nodded slowly. "So that's it. You made your choice. I'm just making it official." She opened the envelope. "Read the heading." Her lips parted slightly. This says I get 5%. You stayed for the money, right?" I said. "Well, now you'll see what 5% of a lie is worth." Her eyes flicked up to mine, furious, stunned, and maybe, for the first time, scared. You can't do this to me. I'm not doing it to you, I said quietly. I'm doing it for me. She stood, knocking the chair back. You're punishing me for being honest. No, I said. I'm punishing you for being a coward. For pretending. For using me. For looking me in the eye and choosing someone else while wearing the ring I gave you. She stormed out of the room. I didn't follow her. Not this time. Later that night, she came back into the bedroom. She wasn't crying. She was calm. I want to try therapy, she said. I looked up from the book I wasn't really reading. Now you want therapy. I don't want to lose everything. I gave a cold little laugh. No. You just don't want to lose this. She bit her lip. I can change. I don't want you to change, I said. I want you to be honest about who you are. I was. Too late. She sat down slowly. You said you loved me. I did. She nodded, eyes shining. Do you still? I didn't answer. Because honestly, I didn't know anymore. The next day, her things were packed. I didn't ask her to. She just did it. Maybe she realized it too. That the damage was too deep. That once trust breaks, it never really fits the same way again. She stood at the door with one suitcase. No makeup. No jewelry. Just her. The version of her I hadn't seen in a long time. I didn't plan to fall back into him, she said. I know. I didn't think you'd ever find out. That one stung. But I nodded. Goodbye, Mark. I wanted to say something. Anything. But all I could do was watch her walk away. And when the door clicked shut, I didn't cry. I just sat down. And started breathing again. But I didn't know then that wasn't the last I'd see of her. Not by a long shot. Because a month later, just when I thought the worst was over, I got a phone call that would unravel everything again. And this time, it wasn't from her. It was from him. Her ex. The man she almost left me for. He wanted to meet. And what he told me changed everything. When I saw his name flash across my phone screen, I stared at it for a solid minute. Liam. Her ex. The guy she texted while I lay next to her. The one she nearly left me for. I didn't answer. But he called again the next morning. Then again the next night. And on the third day, he left a voicemail. Mark, we've never spoken. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from. But I need to talk to you. It's important. It's not what you think. I don't know why I called him back. Maybe part of me wanted a final piece of the puzzle. Maybe I just wanted to look him in the face. We agreed to meet at a neutral place, a diner off the highway, one of those 24-hour joints that never closes but always feels half asleep. He was already sitting in a corner booth when I walked in. Wearing a gray hoodie, hunched over a black coffee. I took the seat across from him. We just stared at each other for a moment, two men with the same history, same woman, same regret. You're taller than I thought, he said, trying to break the tension. I didn't answer. He sighed. Okay. No small talk. Fair enough. He leaned forward. I need to clear something up. About Jenna. I felt my jaw clench. You're not going to defend her, are you? No, he said quickly. I'm going to tell you something she never will. I folded my arms. Go on. She lied to me, too. That made me pause. He kept going. I didn't know she was still married when she reached out. I thought you two were already separated. She told me you were basically living as roommates. That the marriage was over in everything but paperwork. I raised an eyebrow. And you just believe that? He looked ashamed. At first. Yeah. We had history. Old feelings. I thought maybe it was fate. I scoffed. Fate. That's what you call cheating now. I'm not proud of it, he said quietly. But it didn't go the way you think. He pulled something from his coat pocket. A photo, worn, creased, like it had been carried for a long time. He slid it across the table. It was Jenna and Liam. But not recently. She looked younger. Her hair was shorter. They were smiling, big, open, real smiles. She was pregnant, he said. I blinked. What? He nodded slowly. That was the last time we were together. 8 years ago. Before she met you. My brain started spinning. You're saying. She lost the baby. Miscarriage. We were a wreck after that. She left. Disappeared for a year. Then one day, I saw online she'd gotten married. I stared at the photo again, my fingers frozen on the table. Liam spoke softly. When she came back into my life this year, it messed me up. I thought maybe she came back because she missed me. But it wasn't that. Not really. Then what was it? I asked. He exhaled hard. She was scared. Of what? You. Of your success. Of the life you were building. She told me she felt like a stranger in her own home. Like she didn't belong in your world anymore. I sat back, stunned. She used me, he said, bitterness creeping into his voice. Not for love. For escape. That hit hard. Because I realized, he wasn't just talking about himself. That's what she'd done to me too. Used me for the stability. For the future. But her heart. It had been gone long before the texts ever started. Why tell me all this? I finally asked. He looked down at his coffee. Because I wanted to hate you. I really did. But the more I learned, the more I realized, we're both victims here. He looked back up at me, eyes sincere. She doesn't know who she is without a man choosing her. She doesn't know how to be alone. A silence stretched between us. Heavy. Real. Then he slid something else across the table, a flash drive. What's this? Messages. Calls. Voicemails. Everything from the last 6 months. She asked me to delete them. I didn't. I thought maybe one day I'd need to prove I wasn't the only one who got burned. I picked it up. It felt like evidence. Like truth. Thanks, I said quietly. He nodded. I'm sorry for what happened, he said as I stood to leave. I'm sorry she broke you, too, I replied. That night, I sat at my desk and opened the files. I shouldn't have. But I had to. Her voice echoed through my speakers. Laughing. Crying. Whispering things I never heard her say to me. I just want to feel something again, she said on one message. I want to remember who I was before I became a wife. And in another, she said. Mark doesn't see me anymore. I could disappear, and he'd probably just ask where the salt is. Those words stayed in my ears long after the audio ended. Because I remembered the day she said that. I remembered sitting in the living room, watching a documentary, thinking everything was fine. And she was on the phone, spilling our marriage out like it was just background noise. I closed the laptop. Sat in the dark. And cried. 2 weeks passed. The divorce papers were moving forward. I kept the flash drive hidden in my drawer. Not for revenge. Not to hurt her. Just as a reminder, a scar I could touch if I ever forgot what betrayal sounds like. Then one day, she called. I didn't answer. But she came by anyway. Knocked on the door like she still lived there. Like she hadn't torn it all down. I opened it. She looked different. No makeup. Hair pulled back. Pale. Can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside. She walked in slowly, like a ghost returning to a burned house. I saw Liam, I said flatly. She froze. I know about the baby, I added. Her eyes filled with tears instantly. I never wanted you to know about that. Why not? Because that part of me, that broken, sad version of me, it died with that baby. And I didn't want you to fall in love with a grave. I swallowed hard. She sat on the couch. I'm not here to ask for anything. Then why are you here? She looked up at me. To say I'm sorry. For real this time. I stayed silent. I lied to both of you, she said. I used you. I know that now. But I also know none of this was your fault. I studied her face. She wasn't acting. For the first time, I believed her. I'm going away for a while, she said. Therapy. Real therapy. I need to figure out who I am when no one's watching. I nodded slowly. Good, I said. She stood up. Took one last look at the house. At me. Thank you for loving me, she whispered. Even when I didn't deserve it. And then, she left. This time for good. I'd love to tell you that I healed quickly. That I bounced back stronger than ever. But the truth? Some wounds don't close. Some scars don't fade. They just become part of who you are. But I wasn't broken. Not completely. Because sometimes you have to lose everything you thought you needed to realize what you truly deserve. And I was finally ready to find it. It's strange how quiet a house becomes after someone leaves it. The silence didn't hit me right away. At first, it felt like peace. But after a few days, the stillness became something else. An echo. A reminder of what once filled the space. I moved Jenna's things into storage. Left the bedroom half empty. Not because I was holding on to hope, just. I wasn't ready to fill it with something else yet. And for the first time in years, I had to learn how to be alone. It wasn't easy. Mornings stretched longer. Nights felt colder. But day by day, something in me began to settle. I started jogging again. Picked up photography, a hobby I'd abandoned when marriage and work took over. I even had dinner with friends I hadn't seen in over a year. They told me I looked lighter. Clearer. I didn't say much. But inside, I was beginning to feel human again. Then, one morning, everything shifted again. I was at a local bookstore. Just browsing. I wasn't looking for anything, just killing time. And that's when I saw her. Standing in the nonfiction aisle. Light brown hair tied in a messy bun. A green scarf around her neck. She looked like autumn had wrapped itself around a person. She turned, and our eyes met. And in that instant, memory rushed in like a wave. Emily. I said before I could stop myself. Her eyes widened. Mark. She walked over, smiling like she couldn't believe it. I hadn't seen her in almost 9 years. Emily was the one that got away. We dated briefly, before I met Jenna. She was warm, sarcastic, a little chaotic, but she made every day feel alive. Back then, I wasn't ready. I told myself I needed stability. So I chose safe. Predictable. Jenna. Now, standing here across from Emily, I wondered if I had mistaken safety for love. We ended up getting coffee that day. Then lunch the next week. Then dinner the week after that. At first, we kept it friendly, catching up on life, work, old memories. She told me she'd gone through her own mess of a relationship. Nothing permanent. Nothing that lasted. I guess I scared most of them off, she joked, stirring her coffee. I tend to ask the hard questions too early. I smiled. Maybe they were the wrong people. She looked at me across the table. And maybe you weren't ready to be the right one, back then. The words sat between us. Warm and honest. I didn't know where this was going. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of what came next. A few weeks later, we went for a walk through the park. Leaves crunched beneath our feet. The air was crisp, golden with sunlight. Can I ask you something? She said suddenly. Of course. Do you ever regret marrying her? The question stopped me cold. Not because I hadn't thought about it, but because I hadn't expected anyone else to say it out loud. I exhaled. No, and yes. She tilted her head. That's not an answer. I don't regret loving her. Even though she hurt me. Because that love taught me what I don't want, and what I deserve. Emily was quiet for a moment. I think the scariest part, I added, was realizing how long I stayed because I was afraid of starting over. Afraid of being alone. She nodded. I get that. Starting over can feel like failure. But maybe, it's just a second chance in disguise. I looked at her. You always did say things like that. She laughed. Yeah. And you always acted like you didn't hear them, but remembered them anyway. We kept walking. And I realized something. I wasn't thinking about Jenna anymore. A few days later, Jenna texted me. Just one sentence. Can we talk? I stared at the message. Felt my chest tighten. Emily and I weren't official. We weren't rushing anything. But still, something in me bristled at the idea of letting Jenna back into my orbit. I didn't respond right away. That night, I sat with the message on my screen. And I typed back. What about? She replied within seconds. Closure. We agreed to meet at a cafe. Public. Neutral. Just one conversation. When she walked in, she looked healthier. More grounded. Her eyes weren't as haunted. We didn't hug. Just sat across from each other. I'm not here to stir anything up, she began. I just needed to say thank you. That caught me off guard. For what? For letting me go. For not begging me to stay. For not destroying me when you had every reason to. I didn't say anything. I've been in therapy, she continued. Real therapy this time. And I've had to look at a lot of things I didn't want to face. Like what? Like the fact that I never really knew what love meant. That I mistook attention for affection. Stability for imprisonment. Her voice cracked slightly. I don't want to get back together, she said quickly. I know that's not what this is. I just needed you to hear that I'm trying. That I'm sorry. I nodded. I know, I said quietly. She looked relieved. And then she said something that made my stomach twist. I heard you've been seeing Emily. I blinked. How did you? She smiled faintly. Small town. Bigger whispers. There was no judgment in her tone. Just quiet resignation. I hope it works out, she added. Thank you, I said softly. She stood up. And for the first time since this entire storm began, she looked like someone finally letting go. Emily and I continued seeing each other. Not in a whirlwind way. Not a rebound. Just, slowly. Like two people walking toward each other after spending years in different storms. We went to art exhibits. Cooked dinner together. Watched terrible movies just to make fun of them. And one night, while sitting on my porch watching the sunset, she leaned her head against my shoulder and whispered. You don't flinch when people get close anymore. I looked at her. That's because I'm not afraid of breaking, I said. She smiled. Me neither. But life has a funny way of testing your peace. A letter arrived in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single photo. Of Jenna and a man I didn't recognize, arm in arm. Smiling. And on the back. Thought you should know. L. Liam. There was no explanation. No threat. No signature. Just proof that Jenna had already moved on too. I tossed the photo in the drawer with the flash drive. And I realized. I didn't feel betrayed. I didn't feel jealous. I felt nothing. And that's when I knew. I was finally free. They say when you finally move on, life tests you, just to make sure you mean it. That test came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I was closing up a presentation at work when I saw the email. No subject line. No signature. Just a PDF attachment titled prenup_revisions_Jenna_McNeil.pdf. I hadn't seen her full name since the divorce. I clicked, and my heart sank. Inside was a draft of a document that would reopen everything I'd just started healing from. She was contesting our previous financial agreement. Claiming she had been emotionally compromised during the original negotiations. That she was owed more than what she left with. It wasn't about the money. It was about power. Control. It was the ghost of the old Jenna, clawing her way back through legal ink and paper. I closed the file and stared at the screen. I wanted to scream. Break something. Call her and ask why. Why now? Why this? But I didn't. Instead, I called my lawyer. Handle it, I said. Don't even copy me on the response. You sure? He asked. Yeah. I'm not letting her steal one more second of my peace. That night, I sat on the porch with Emily. The air smelled like wet pavement and lilacs. We sipped wine, listening to distant thunder roll across the sky. I got an email from Jenna today, I said casually. Emily raised an eyebrow. Yeah. She's trying to reopen our prenup. Emily didn't flinch. She won't get far, I added. But it's the gesture that stings. Emily was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Do you still love her?" I looked at her, surprised. "No," I said. "Not even a little." "Then it's just noise," she said. "Static." That's all it ever was. And somehow, that simple truth untied a knot in my chest I didn't even know was still there. The next morning, I went for a run. The sky was clear, the air crisp. I ran longer than usual. Harder. My legs burned. My lungs ached. But it felt good. Like I was running through something, not away from it. When I got home, Emily was in the kitchen, humming a tune I didn't recognize. She looked up and smiled. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Better than okay." And I meant it. Later that week, I got a call. It was from a number I didn't recognize. "Mark," a woman's voice asked. "Yes." "This is Lydia." "I'm Jenna's mother." I froze. I hadn't spoken to Lydia in years. We used to be close, before things got complicated. "Hi," I said cautiously. "Everything okay?" There was a pause. "She's not well," Lydia said softly. "Not physically. Emotionally." I said nothing. "She's unraveling, Mark. And I know you're not responsible for her anymore, but..." "But what?" "She's still in love with you." I almost laughed. Not out of cruelty, just disbelief. "Lydia," I said carefully, "she left me. For someone else." "I know," she whispered. "And she regrets it every day." I closed my eyes. "This isn't my burden anymore," I said. "I can't fix her." "I'm not asking you to," she replied. "But if you could, forgive her, somehow, it might help her move forward." Forgiveness. It sounded so simple. And yet, how do you forgive someone who only wants absolution when there's nothing left to take? That night, I told Emily about the call. She didn't seem surprised. "She's reaching for any rope that'll pull her out," Emily said. I nodded. "And I'm not the rope." "No," Emily said, stepping closer. "You're the raft. She just doesn't realize it sank when she let go." I looked at her, grateful. For her clarity. For her strength. "I love you," I said before I even knew I was saying it. Emily blinked. Then smiled. "I know." Weeks passed. Jenna's legal challenge collapsed quickly. Turns out, signing a document while being emotionally compromised doesn't hold up in court when you also bought a beach house 2 days later. I didn't gloat. Didn't text her. Didn't respond to the follow-up email that simply read, "I'm sorry." I was desperate. I let the silence speak for me. One Sunday, I took Emily to the lake. It was where I used to go alone after the separation, just to think. Now, I wanted to give that place new meaning. We sat by the water, watching ducks glide across the surface. "I used to come here and imagine what life would have been like if I'd chosen differently," I said. Emily looked at me. "And now?" "Now I'm just glad life gave me another chance to choose." She reached for my hand. "I don't need promises," she said. "Just presence." "You have that," I whispered. "All of it." But just when you think a story has found its ending, life gives you one last page. 2 days later, I got another letter. Handwritten. No envelope. Just slipped under my door. It was from Jenna. _Mark. I'm leaving. Not just town. The country. I need to go somewhere where no one knows me. I ruined us. I know that now. But I also know I loved you the best I could, even if it was never enough. I hope you don't hate me. I hope you forget me. Because that means you've finally healed. J_. I read the letter 3 times. And for the first time, I didn't cry. I didn't feel angry. Or bitter. Or sad. I just felt done. Like the final thread had been snipped. Like the chapter had closed for good. Emily and I didn't talk about the letter that night. Instead, we danced in the kitchen. To an old jazz record we found at a thrift store. She laughed when I stepped on her foot. I kissed her forehead and said, "Guess I'm still learning." "Good," she whispered. "So am I." They say heartbreak is a wound. But I think it's more like a fire. It burns everything you thought was solid. Leaves behind ashes and silence. But sometimes it clears the way for something wild to grow. Something real. Something strong enough to survive the next storm. They say the cracks are where the light gets in. But no one tells you how long it takes to stop seeing just the cracks. Even after Jenna's final letter, I kept it in a drawer for weeks. Not because I couldn't let go. But because a part of me wanted to remember how far I'd come. The man I used to be would have read that letter at 2 a.m., desperate for a hidden meaning. He would have wondered if she really meant forget me. He would have texted her. Maybe even chased her to the airport. But that man no longer lived here. The day I finally threw the letter away, I didn't do it with ceremony. No fire. No dramatic tear. I just folded it in half, dropped it in the trash, and walked away. Because I had something better to protect now. My peace. My future. Emily. She and I had grown into something quiet and steady. Not the kind of love that explodes. But the kind that stays lit through storms. We didn't rush anything. We didn't talk about forever. We just built it, one ordinary day at a time. And that was enough. Until one night, it wasn't. We were lying in bed, side by side. No TV, no distractions. Just soft rain tapping the window. "Do you ever think about it?" Emily asked. "Think about what?" "Marriage." I paused. "Sometimes," I admitted. "Why?" She turned to face me. "I never thought I'd want it again. Not after everything. But with you, it doesn't scare me." That hit me in the chest. I'd never needed a ring to prove anything. But suddenly, I wanted one. Not as a symbol of ownership. But as a promise to protect what we'd built. Not just from others, but from the parts of myself still learning how to love right. A few days later, I met with my jeweler friend. Simple. Elegant, I told him. No diamonds. She's not flashy. He smiled. Got it. As I waited for the custom piece, I kept thinking about the question I knew she'd ask, why now? And the answer was both simple and layered. Because I'm no longer a man building a life around someone else's shadow. Because this time, I'm not choosing someone to save me. I'm choosing someone to share with me. The day the ring was ready, I picked it up and didn't tell anyone. Not even Emily. I wanted the right moment. Not a holiday. Not a candlelit dinner. Just a real, unfiltered second that felt like us. It came one lazy Sunday afternoon. We were at the farmer's market. Emily had just tasted a piece of honeycomb and made a face like she'd discovered magic. I could eat this every day for the rest of my life, she said. I laughed. What if I made sure you could? She turned, smiling. What do you mean? I pulled out the small velvet box, right there between the stands of fresh basil and lavender soap. Her eyes went wide. Mark. I want every ordinary day with you, I said. Even the boring ones. Especially the boring ones. She didn't speak for a moment. Then she laughed, tears slipping down her cheeks. I didn't know I still believed in this, she whispered. Neither did I. And just like that, between 2 rows of sunflowers, she said yes. The months that followed were the most peaceful of my life. We didn't plan a big wedding. No registry. No catering hall. No guest list drama. Just the 2 of us, a courthouse in Nashville, and a dinner afterward with close friends. When the judge said, "Do you take this woman?" I thought about all the women I'd once taken for granted. All the versions of love I thought I wanted. And then I looked at Emily, calm and radiant in her simple white dress. "I do," I said. "Forever." About a month later, I got one last surprise from the past. A letter from Lydia, Jenna's mother. It was short. "Dear Mark. Jenna is in treatment now. In Spain. I think she finally realized what she's been running from. I wanted to thank you for trying to love her when she couldn't love herself. She asked me not to contact you again, but I thought you deserved to know. Be happy. Truly. Lydia, I folded the letter and set it in the drawer where the old one used to be. But this time, it didn't carry weight. It felt like closure. A sealed envelope on a finished chapter. One night, months later, Emily and I were watching an old home video of a friend's wedding. In the background, the couple was dancing to a soft acoustic song neither of us knew. Emily leaned against my shoulder and said, "Do you ever miss who you used to be?" I thought about it. "No," I said honestly. "But I respect him." She looked up. "Respect him?" "Yeah. For surviving. For learning. For letting go." She smiled. "Me too. Sometimes, the person who hurt you the most isn't someone else. It's the version of you that let it happen. That kept choosing pain and calling it love. But healing isn't about erasing that version. It's about understanding him, forgiving him, and then choosing different. Every day." Emily and I bought a cabin near the lake last fall. It's quiet. Peaceful. We plant tomatoes and spend evenings on the porch. She writes poetry again. I started playing guitar, badly, but with joy. We argue about small things. We make up just as fast. We don't chase perfect. We just wake up and try. And that's the life I never thought I'd get. Not because I didn't deserve it. But because for a long time, I didn't believe I did. So here's the truth. If you're sitting in the ashes of something that once looked like love, if you've been lied to, manipulated, or left behind, if you're wondering if the pain will ever loosen its grip, let me tell you what I wish someone told me. You don't need to go back to who you were. You don't need to be fine. You just need to keep walking. Even if it's slow. Even if it hurts. Even if the only thing you're carrying is the hope that one day it'll stop hurting. Because one day, it will. And on that day, the air will feel lighter. The silence will sound like peace. And you'll meet someone, not to save you, not to complete you, but to sit beside you and say, "I'm glad you made it out. I made it out. And I found the light. Right there in the cracks. And I wouldn't trade that journey for anything. Not even the pain. Because that's how I found her. That's how I found me."